Hello again, my dudes. This is Kadima with another build video for Elden Ring using the weapons from the DLC. We are now going with this absolute abomination of a bow. Yes, I'm talking about Ansbach Longbow. And for the cosplay kind of thematic of this bow, we are pairing it with the Obsidian Lamina, which is the weapon that Ansbach uses. And on the side we have the Blood Venomous Fang. Now, why is this bow broken? It's currently not working as intended. And the reason why, it's because of the Ashes of War of this bow. So when you use the Ashes of War of this bow, multiple arrows are fired at the same time. It's 8 arrows in one go. Now, the problem is, it doesn't matter if you hit one arrow or all of them, because it is going to work as if all of them have hit the target. So let's say your target is the door. If you hit all of them, great, you do the maximum damage. But if you aim to the side and you only hit one of them, like this one here, you would still have the exact same damage and the exact same effect as if you would have hit all of the arrows. And because the bow is currently broken and working like this, well, you're going to see what this thing does. It clearly is not working as intended. It's doing way more damage than it should. For PvP, I can honestly say you can two-shot people with this thing, and I'm going to give you an example of that exactly happening. But the problem with using a bow in PvP is that you can easily get smashed. I've gotta be honest. When I was recording footage for this build in the arena, it was painful. Because people just go for you. They won't give you enough space to shoot the arrows. And the other problem that this bow has, as broken as the Ashes of War is, it has a massive problem, is that it doesn't let you hold it. You can't hold the arrows there. The moment that you cast it, even if you keep your finger on the button, they just fire anyway, which is kind of sad. If it allowed you to keep it like this, as if you had just draw it, but hold it, if you had the ability to hold the arrow in place without having to fire it straight away, now this thing would be an absolute killing machine, because you could actually catch people with this thing easily, especially with the Ashes of War, because there are so many arrows. Even if they roll to the side, you could easily catch them. But because the Ashes of War doesn't let you hold the button in place, it doesn't let you hold the arrows there, it's a bit of a down for this bow, which is a shame. If it worked like that, this thing would be absolutely ridiculous in its current state for PvP. But let's talk about the build itself. So as I said, we're using the Obsidian Lamina. This will be our go-to weapon, especially in the PvP. If the opponents don't give us enough space, you have to go with something else, because you just won't be able to proc your arrows and do pretty much anything, so you need a secondary weapon. The bow is the main feature, and you want to have bleeding arrows, and you want to have poison arrows. And the reason why you want to have these two is very simple. So because of how it works, all you have to do is first use the poison ones, actually, and after you use the poison ones, the enemy is poison, and now you can go with the bleeding. And because the enemy is poison, you are going to have an increased damage with the Kindred Rot of Exaltation Talisman. And also we are using the Arrow Stings Talisman, which raises attack power of arrows and bolts. We are using the Lord of Blood's Exaltation because of the bleeding is going to boost our attack power, and the White Mask for the absolute same effect. With Rakshas's armor, the complete set, you'll boost your damage even further, and the Shard of Alexander, because this is a skill, everything is basically boosting your damage to an absolute abnormality of damage that you shouldn't be able to do with a bow, to be honest. So the only downside, as I explained, is the fact that you can't hold the Ashes of War attack with the arrows in place. You have to fire them straight away. But it has an amazing reach. If you have the fletched arrows, it still hits from really far away. When it comes to boosting your damage even further, you want to use Exalted Flash in the arena. If you are playing PvE, I recommend having the Uplifting Aromatic as well, so you can boost your Mimic with a bit further damage. And for the Flask, you don't really have to go with a lot of stuff here. I recommend going with the Thorny Cracked here because it temporarily boosts successive attack powers, and because you are constantly be firing weapons, this is going to increase the damage as you go along. And the Stone Barb Cracked here, so you can just stance break the bosses as you fire the weapons. But I gotta be honest, they are not even going to last that long for any of that to matter. They just immediately die. It takes about 30 seconds. The moment you start firing the first arrows, it's just ridiculous. The damage that this bow does against bosses is just insane. But let me take it a step further. Even if you're just fighting trash mobs, you could easily replace any of these arrows with cheap arrows, or let's say dwelling arrows or anything, and you'll be doing amazing damage, because this bow scales D with strength, D with dexterity, which is not amazing. When it comes to the attack power, it's 430, which is not great. But because of how the Ashes of War work, the damage is just stupid. So the way you have to play with this is that you just round all the enemies in front of you, and the moment they are like all in front of you, you just fire the Ashes of War and all of them just die. It's that simple. The Obsidian Lamina, it scales B with dexterity, and that's the reason why we went with this weapon. And that's the reason why when it comes to stats, as you can see now on the screen, we are level 151, Vigor 60, Mind at 10, because the Ashes of War doesn't consume that much FP that it justifies putting points into Mind, so just go as it is. Endurance at 31, Strength at 14, Dexterity at 80. If you want to go with only the bow, you could actually take things a bit further and improve the damage if you just go with a quality build, having your points distributed equally between strength and dexterity. Now, this would be very unreliable when it comes to PvP, because you would then have to choose a different weapon. And I really wanted to use the Obsidian Lamina, so that was the reason for this build. But if you don't want to use the Obsidian Lamina and you still want to use the Longbow, go with a quality build that just change the Obsidian weapon Lamina for a weapon that scales great with both strength and dexterity, and you are perfectly good to go. But I'm a bit stuck with my own old ways, and that's the reason why the build is the way it is. It's not an amazing broken build, because as I said, it could use some tweaking to make it even more devastating when it comes to the scaling and the attributes that I currently have, but it's entirely up to you. The idea is there, use it as you guys see fit. But now let's go for the examples. Unfortunately, because I lost my patience using this build in the arena, I don't have a lot of PvP fights examples, but I have enough for you guys to have an idea of what happens when you use this thing effectively in PvP. As per usual, here we are at the Black Knight. You can see I got my Mimic already. I'm just going to boost with the Aromatic one more time. I use the Exalted Flash. As I close by, I actually misused the Flask already. But as you can see, Poison is already flying that guy's way. And yeah, he's already poisoned. And now all you have to do is swap to the Blood Arrows. I actually didn't realize I had run out of FPs. I just recharge. Yes, he takes away my shield. But here we go. Okay. Oh, okay, you want to tongue me? That's fine. Let me retaliate. And boom. And boom. And it's actually the Mimic that finishes him off. It's just stupid amounts of damage because of the bow being in this state. Now, for the Blood Fiend Chief, well, it's not that different as how it happened with the Black Knight. I just summoned the Mimic because, you know, two people firing a broken bow is always better than just one. So I summoned my Mimic because I'm greedy that way. I actually want to use the Aromatic next to my Mimic. And there you go. 92 damage. He's now poisoned. And 3,500, 500 damage, 9,000, 12,000, 14,000. He's beating me up, but look, it's fine. I'll just roll away, and then what happens, I'll just give you some more blood. Let me just recharge my FPs, and boom, goodbye. It's that easy. Now, for PvP examples, as I explained, this thing is actually quite hard to successfully use in PvP because people are either just gonna spam faster things at you, like the Smith script shield, or they're just gonna close down with a fast hitting weapon, like this guy. He's using light great swords, and they hit hard, and it gives me no chance to throw my arrows. Even when I hit mid jumping, for example, most times the arrows don't even register, so it can be quite hard to use this thing. Even now, I thought I would at least get the trade, but no, the arrows just didn't register. So it's very complicated to use effectively in PvP. I more often than not had to swap to the Lamina, because, you know, if you're about to lose, you at least try to get back into the duel. The weapon hits nicely. It doesn't do insane amounts of damage, but it's a melee weapon that gives you an alternative for both PvP and PvE, because when the bow doesn't work, the bow doesn't work, and there's nothing you can do about it. The range of the charged R2 is actually quite nice. It's a shame that sometimes the jumping R1 completely misses the target. I found that it does that more often than not, even when you land the hit next to your opponent. Now, for this example here, again, trying to use the bow, of course, but it's not always easy. I tried to with the jumping arrows. I managed to land one here and there, but the arrows are extremely easy to dodge, or they just miss completely the target. Even now, as you saw, I did that jumping attack, and the hit doesn't register. If there's lag, it makes things even worse, because as you can see, the guy is clearly laggy on my screen, and then he's got a spear, so he can just run R1 me, and it pretty much impedes me to use my bow effectively. As I said, I do land an arrow here and there, but more often than not you're gonna miss the arrows, and the lag absolutely destroys this build. It's already hard as it is to hit anything, especially because you can't hold the Ashes of War. I think that's a massive downside of this bow. If you could hold it in place and fire only when you wanted, now this thing would be busted. It would be one of the best weapons in PvP, in my opinion. So he actually tried to parry me. As you saw, the backstep didn't even start the animation, although I was right behind him. But yeah, it's the arena, nothing we can do about it. Again, the build is fun to use. It's not the most effective thing out there, but it's fun, and when things work, things work. I had to make good work of this guy because, again, I wasn't able to land nearly anything with my bow, so I'm just trying to get him confused with a scythe, and I finally managed to get the win. Now, with this fella, I've actually played him a couple of times, but this was by far the best win, because I managed to do it with the bow. And this is when you are going to understand how broken the damage of the bow is, especially in PvP, when you manage to hit stuff with it. It's not easy, but when it does hit, it just melts HP bars, because it's just broken. It's not working as intended. So I'm trying to get him to give me just a little bit of space. I finally managed to dodge everything. Now I have a little bit of space. He's of course casting the lightning. He throws that thing at my feet, which is just pretty annoying, but here we go. I actually missed, but the second one misses as well, despite, as you could see on my screen, it should have landed because he had just finished the dodge, but 760 something, and he gets immediately poisoned. And then with the bleed, it just finishes the job. All I have to do is wait for the poison to get him killed, and there you go. GG. 2-shot win. That's how much he took. 2 shots. Now, this guy, I don't know what he was trying to do. I guess he's using the Sword of Damnation, and he's probably just started using it. But as you just seen, the arrows with poison, 1,100 damage. I don't know how he didn't get poisoned there. but 1100 damage with a bow. There you go, have some bleeding, and then have some more, and there you go, GG. Now, as for this one, hard fight, because this guy wouldn't give me any space again, which is of course normal. If I was fighting someone using a bow, I would probably use the same strategy. Although he's using the Smith script daggers, he's still being very aggressive. He's not really playing from safety. I do manage to land some poison arrows here and there, and those poison arrows is actually the reason why I managed to win, because he's actually going to get poisoned at some point. As you see, that one should have roll catch, but the arrows pointed completely in the wrong direction. Because there's no poise to this build, yes, you get easily interrupted. Maybe if I had boosted the poise, it would be a bit more viable, because you wouldn't get interrupted and you could try to roll catch people more effectively. But it would decrease the damage of each arrow significantly. So I just wanted full bursts of damage for everything I could land. And there he is, the poison is building up, nearly there. And I land a couple more poison arrows. But he's got the upper hand. He's completely dominating the match. I'm just trying to survive, and I finally managed to get another poison arrow, and the poison finally procs. And although I'm really just surviving by the the skin of my teeth, my point here is, if I can't get hit, he's poisoned, I can win as long as I do not get hit. So that's why I stopped attacking. I just want to survive, and then the poison finishes the job for me. Now, another good fight. This guy wouldn't give me any space, which is understandable, especially if he's using fist weapons. But here I am, making a fool of myself, trying to land some poison arrows, which just goes miserably. I managed to land them, but they did no damage. Again, that's the problem with the bow, is that you hit them, you concede that you hit them, but no poison was triggered and no damage was caused. So it makes it very hard to go with this build for the arena. It's fun, as I said, but it's very hard to use it effectively, especially compared to many of my other previous builds. One thing I forgot to mention, but as you can see on the left corner, left bottom corner of the screen, I actually got the fangs equipped there. And I would have used them, but I was really trying to stick with using just the lamina and the bow. But the poisonous fangs actually had the poison flower blooms twice on it. It would have been a good idea to maybe try to use it against this guy, because he's using fist weapons. Maybe it would have made it a little bit easier for me to go with that. But I really wanted to get the build to shine with its actual idea, the original idea of the scythe and the bow. Again, not hard, not easy. It's very hard to space people with this scythe. The range is a bit funny, and the fact that sometimes the R1s don't even register, although the enemy didn't even dodge, and you can tell they are within range. It's just really hard to make this fun. In any case, I think this is the best example of a fight that I can give you where this bow is just devastating. As you can see, this guy is just spamming Ashes of War, which is fine. But as soon as I actually managed to do mine, there you go, 1100 damage with poison, and then finish the job with a bleed. GG. Now, this is going to be the last fight. Again, I am sorry I didn't get much more examples of PvP, but I couldn't force myself. It's very hard to use this. But as you can see, I managed to get some poison arrows flying from all the way down here while he was buffing himself. I don't know why he was playing so defensively. I would have done something much different, but I think he wanted a range fight, and that's why he was there just spamming that Ashes of War. I got him poisoned, so I got the upper hand. He's now on a time limit, although I'm not even able to fire any arrows at the moment. But it's now my turn. I get the bleed, and I get another bleed, and I get one more. I actually ran out of FPs, but that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Cheerio!